Good afternoon. My name is Kristin Sostowski. I'm an equity director with Gibbons PC in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm honored and excited to be your new president of the National Association of Women Lawyers. I want to first thank my friend, Soretta McDonough, for her tremendous leadership of this organization over the last year. Soretta has been a tireless champion for NAL in so many ways, particularly in elevating NAL's voice to support women's rights and the rule of law. It has been a true pleasure to work alongside her for many years now, and on behalf of the board and the entire organization, I want to thank Soretta for all of her work. So I was more than a little bit excited when I realized that I would be the president of this remarkable organization during the 2019 to 2020 term. As you've heard, this year we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment and American women winning the vote. NAL was founded in 1899, so actually predates women's suffrage by more than 20 years. Think about that. In 1914, during the final years of the suffrage campaign, NAL had 170 members in 25 states. These 170 women could not vote, but they were lawyers. Given these circumstances, NAL, which was then known as the Women Lawyers Club, was founded right here in New York with a dual mission: to advance both women in the profession and women's rights under the law. For the club's founders, these two goals were inextricably linked, because although they were lawyers, as women, NAL's earliest members had virtually no legal rights. When I first became involved in NAL more than a decade ago, it was part of my attraction to the organization that it had this long history. In particular, I knew that NAL's members had been actively involved in the suffrage campaign. And so, as I prepared to become NAL's president during this historic year, I wanted to better understand the women who led a 70-year campaign for suffrage, one that many of them would not live to see succeed, and to consider the lessons that they share with us today. And I wanted my husband and daughters, who are here today, to be part of that journey. My husband, Steve Herbis, and I met during our first semester in law school. So he has been the love of my life and my partner in every way for more than 20 years. Thank you, honey. And together we have three smart and very strong-willed daughters: Catherine, Madeline, and Sophie, who are also here. So as a family, we set out to visit some of the major sites of the suffrage campaign over the last year. We traveled first to Seneca Falls, New York, which was the site of the first Women's Rights Convention in the United States in 1848. We went to Susan B. Anthony's home in Rochester, New York, to Marble House in Newport, Rhode Island, where Alva Vanderbilt Belmont hosted summer soirees to generate supports for votes for women, to the headquarters of the National Women's Party in Washington, D.C., and even to NAL's archives, which are housed at Radcliffe. And in our travels, we encountered the stories of many of the leading women's rights advocates of their day: Lucretia Mott, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Frederick Douglass, Susan B. Anthony, Sojourner Truth, Carrie Chapman Catt, Ida B. Wells, and Alice Paul. We also repeatedly came across a less-known name: Inez Milholland. You may be familiar with Inez's image, if not her name. In the most famous parade of the American suffrage movement, which was held the day before President Woodrow Wilson's inaugural in 1913, Inez was at the head of the parade, riding a white horse. When I learned that Inez was not only this visionary organizer, but also an attorney, I of course wanted to learn more about her. At the time of the parade, Inez was just 27 years old. She was a brand new lawyer. After graduating from Vassar College, I am sad to say that she was denied admission to my alma mater, Harvard Law School, when she sought to become their first woman student. Harvard did not admit women for another 40 years. But fortunately, Inez was accepted at NYU Law School, and she graduated in 1912. I'm sure we have some NYU alums in the house who are glad to hear this. I like to think about Inez as a millennial of the 20th century, sharing many of the characteristics we've come to associate with her 21st century counterparts. She's confident, independent, global in outlook, committed to social justice and diversity. She was an early member of the NAACP and of the Women's Trade Union League. And I'm happy to report that Inez was also a member of NAL. Yes, she was one of us. So my daughters and I discovered Inez's membership in NAL when we were reviewing NAL's archives at Radcliffe. The Woman Lawyers Journal, NAL's publication, dates all the way back to 1911, and Inez was one of its first editors. In reading these early issues of the Woman Lawyers Journal, we found Inez's article, My Conversion to Women's Suffrage. And we also learned that women's legal rights were deeply personal for Inez in a way that I had not anticipated. In 1913, not long after her appearance on the white horse, Inez married a Dutchman named Eugene Boisvin. And as a result of that union, she was stripped of her American citizenship, because the law at that time provided that a married woman took her husband's nationality. So Inez, a lawyer, and a leading suffragist, would not have been eligible to vote in the United States. Unfortunately, Inez's life was cut far too short. In 1916, she went on an extensive and grueling speaking tour to persuade women in the Western states who had already won the vote at the state level to support a federal suffrage amendment. She was physically ill throughout the tour, but nevertheless, she persisted. And during a speech in Los Angeles, she collapsed on stage and died several weeks later. She was only 30 years old. 3 years later, her efforts and those of 2 generations of suffragists were finally realized. On June 4th, 1919, just over 100 years ago, Congress passed the 19th Amendment. And on August 18th, 1920, Tennessee became the 36th state to vote in favor of ratification, which meant that we had changed the course of American history forever. So as we begin this 100th anniversary of the suffrage amendment, and think about NAL's role in this hard-fought campaign and what it means to us today, I now can't help but think, what would Inez say? And perhaps more importantly and appropriately, since the motto of the suffrage movement was deeds, not words, what would Inez do? Learning the stories of Inez and the many other women who led this long suffrage campaign has caused me to reflect on my own personal history that brings me here today. Although we have so much progress yet to achieve, we've reached new heights by standing on the shoulders of these amazing women. And I know that I'm here today because I stand on the shoulders of many who came before me in my own life. So I come from a family of incredibly strong women. My great-grandmother, Katie McGoldrick, is kind of legendary in our family. She left Ireland in 1910, alone at the age of 19, to come to the United States. And she settled in Jersey City. So I kind of love this, just across the river from where Inez Milholland was attending law school at the very same time. My mom, Patricia Duncan, who is here with us today, I'm so happy she's here, was a member of the first class of women to graduate from St. Peter's College. And years later, she returned to school to earn her MBA at Rutgers and graduated when I was in the 4th grade. She has been an incredible role model to me. And I'm also fortunate to be a member of the great Gibbons law firm, which is my other family. When my mentor, Kristin Amalfi, hired me 14 years ago, when my oldest daughter, Catherine, was just a few months old, Kristin made clear by who she was that it was possible to be a mom of 3 and an equity partner in a large law firm. And as my champion for all of these years, she also made clear that she'd walk with me every step of the way to get there, which she has done. Of course, don't make me So of course, none of this would have been possible without being at a supportive firm. And I want to acknowledge all of my colleagues at Gibbons who are here, all up here, particularly our managing director, Patrick Duncan, and our executive director, June Enner-Weiss, who are both here with us today, for all of the support that they have shown for me and all of their tremendous efforts to create opportunity for me and all of the women at our firm to reach our professional potential. To Patrick, to June, to Christine, and to all of my Gibbons colleagues, thank you so much. And through all of the personal and professional changes in my life over the more than a decade that I've been a member of this organization, I've been so fortunate to be supported and inspired by all of you. You are my NAL sisters-in-law. Together, we stand on the shoulders of 120 years of NAL members who've come before us. And just as the early members of our association joined forces to help complete the 70-year suffrage campaign that was launched at Seneca Falls, we must together fulfill the mission of NAL's founders. I don't need to tell all of you that as we enter this 100th anniversary of suffrage, we face an uncertain future for women's rights. As we all know, our work for equality is unfortunately far from complete, and the gains we have made are far from secure. Just think about the US women's soccer team winning their 4th World Cup a couple of weekends ago, but still fighting for equal pay. And so, NAL's work is all the more important. Together, we must continue NAL's dual mission with 2 inseparable parts: women's advancement in the profession and women's equality under the law. As NAL's founders have taught us, we can truly advance in this profession only when we achieve broader equality, and we must not rest until we do. Finally, as your new president, I am excited and more than ready to help lead this organization at this critically important time in our history. I thank all of you for being here today to kick off our 100th anniversary year of suffrage, and I look forward to working with each of you. And now, in the spirit of the suffragists, I must tell you that we need deeds, not words. It's time for all of us to get to work. And thank you.